Hi, I'm Derek Cameron, news writer for the Carillon. Right now we're going to do a executive midterm report with the URSU exec from 2014-2015. So I'll just start off. Devin, what have been the objectives of your executive thus far?
Well, it's been a kind of a rebuilding year for us. We struck out at the start of the year and we all sat down. We made a strategic plan over the course of one long weekend of work, and we came together and we realized that a really important goal for the Students' Union this year was to develop professionalism, develop excellence, and develop a strong foundation to the nonprofit side of the organization. So get everything working really, really smoothly so that we can do our jobs better for students.
All right, and
anyone else?
I think it was more to just marketing URSU better. So a huge part of that was actually having a presence on campus, putting a face to the organization, students actually knowing what we were, what we do, what we provide in a way that hadn't been done before. And so while that is definitely an improvement of services, I think it's also just awareness and marketing of services. And that was a huge thing for us.
Definitely. So how do you feel you've carried out these objectives so far?
Did a pretty good job, I think. We've had a lot of events going on, and like we started off with a gala for Gaia. You did a lot of campaigns, and I think those are some really cool ways to kind of engage the student body, just to kind of say URSU's doing this for you.
Yeah.
And also, I've been working with the clubs and campus groups, and I've been meeting each groups throughout this midterm. And they felt like URSU is a place that they can come easily whenever they need to talk to us, and they have voice for student body. So I feel like we were getting there.
Yeah. And then on my end, just working in the office. It's not glamorous always, but we spent, all of us have spent hours and hours in front of the computer, and we've passed policies to replace every single one that was existing before. And then done a lot of behind the scenes work, stuff that, like I said, not glamorous, but it means that the operation is way more efficient and working way more smoothly than it used to.
Definitely. So for the rest of your term, how are you planning on building on that?
I keep going. We had a big hole to build out of. There was a lot of things that were not quite right, not quite running smooth enough. That we haven't had any shortage of work this year. I honestly believe that all of us probably wish we could have had 2 years in this term just to make sure that we could get everything done.
Yeah, I think it's certainly just also preparing the organization for a turnover. I think that's the hardest part of this job is you never know what's going to happen. I mean, you could have a brand new executive come in with completely different ideas and completely different goals, and so you want to make sure that you leave it in a better place than you got it, kind of with how you would leave anything, right? So making sure that the projects that you started are coming to a close, that you're leaving this portfolio with a lot of great work to be done, not kind of the stuff that we had to start with, which sometimes meant just reading through books and books of information that some of it was super relevant and some of it wasn't at all. And so hopefully this year we can leave some really great transitional documents so that whoever takes on our positions is really ready to take on the job and could just hit the ground running in May.
Yeah.
Definitely. And are there any challenges you foresee coming up with meeting these objectives?
Nah, smooth sailing.
Smooth sailing?
Yeah, totally.
It's easy. No, it's like there's always challenges, right? And it's always the unexpected things, right? Like a couple of us walked in here a little bit late today just because we had things popping up on campus, and it's always the phone calls at 2 o'clock on Thursday that you're not expecting that pose the biggest challenges. Whether it's an agreement that we never heard about, or a sponsor wanting to negotiate things last minute, or whatever it is, dealing with putting out the fires is the biggest challenge at this time of year. Yeah, constantly. Because we know what we want to do and we're working hard on it, but all those other little distractions, those are the things that get in the way.
And it's like very much a part of our everyday job. Like we can't always say, oh, I went to this meeting and I had this meeting, but they're all so relevant and important to what we do. I remember Mike Young said to me, you'll be in a lot of meetings, but it's just like, how do you explain what I'm doing if I'm always in meetings, right? Mm-hmm. And you want students to see you, and they can't see when you're behind closed doors constantly, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just trying to find time to balance
the balance. Yeah, the balance is, I think, the hardest part because I find myself working on projects, I'm like, this is great exposure for URSU, and then I have to go home at 11 o'clock at night and do all of the legwork behind it, which means responding to emails, setting up a structure, making sure all my permits are in place, whatever that may be. That is not as fun, it's not as great as what the outcome is, things like Frost Week, Welcome Week, all these other events. All of the busy work behind it is what you don't see, and I think that's the hardest part. It's hard to stay focused on that when you feel like there's so many other things you could be doing in the campus community, but you can't do those things unless you have your structures in place, unless you're doing it the right way. Otherwise it's not worth it.
I think for me, the hardest thing was like keeping consistency with my work, and also there are a lot of things that needs to be long-term project. And I know 1 year can be long and it can be really short. So I have to really make sure that next person coming in my position will take over that important long-term project. So yeah, that will be the hardest thing.
Well, and don't forget that all 4 of us are students at the same time as we're doing this.
Definitely.
And so, doing all the stuff that we're doing between classes, it's sometimes the workload just gets out of hand. And, we're here for 10, 12-hour days pretty often, but like the schoolwork on top of that turns a 12-hour day into a much longer day pretty quickly.
Definitely. And so you said you're working on publicity, getting students involved. What's been the response so far?
Well, I think you can see it. The V team's been one of the really high-profile ones. Daniela was the one who came up with that. So
it was. I honestly didn't know how I was going to go. The V team was something that I was kind of like, this could either. I mean, in the past, I'd had something similar, and it kind of folded into the ambassadors program. And so I was like, how do I differentiate the ambassadors from the V team? And essentially, what I did was I upped the perks, right? If you're part of the V team, you're part of kind of the elite team that gets to represent URSU. Tried to brand URSU as something that was different, that was special, prestige, exactly. And so Frost Week was a great opportunity for the V team because, I mean, with Frost Week alone, I think I got 26 or 27 new volunteers of people that we just kind of like were like, hey, you should do this all year. And they were like, of course, this is awesome. I didn't even know it existed. So I think with anything, it's reputation building and it's just continuing a legacy. So I hope that with the V team, there's definitely things I would do differently in terms of structuring it, tweaking it a bit. But the main purpose of the V team is to promote URSU and to give students an opportunity to engage with us that they haven't been able to do before.
And also, sorry.
Go ahead.
Also for promoting URSU, we've been sponsoring a lot of campus events, campus clubs, and not just giving them money. We make sure what they're doing. We make sure we advertise them, and also if we are available, we try to be there and support them. By doing that, I think we promoted URSU this year.
And organizationally, we've rebuilt the communications department, got a new communications and marketing sort of specialist in there who's done phenomenal things. If you've seen the quality of posters that URSU was putting out 6 months ago versus now, we've taken a step. And at the same time, like to do a little callback to a year ago, around this time last year, URSU was starting to face attendance problems at its meetings. Board of directors had disengaged, they'd given up. And I'm really proud to say that our board has stuck around, is super engaged, super caring, and very interested in all the motions that we bring to the table. I think we almost had a 3-hour board meeting last night because everyone's got something to say, and it's all valid, it's all worth listening to. So we've seen great interest and great connections from all the members of our community. From volunteers to board members to even the Carillon wanting to come out and do things like this.